My son's fiancée banned me from the wedding. I paid for everything. After years of sacrifice, my son chose her side when she humiliated me publicly. I quietly let the wedding happen, then revealed the truth about who owned everything they depended on. I found out I wasn't invited to my own son's wedding from a seating chart. It was late afternoon, the kind of quiet hour where the house settles into itself. The kettle had just clicked off in the kitchen, and the light coming through the window was that tired gold that makes dust visible in the air. I was standing at the counter, scrolling through my phone, when my sister's message came through. "Is everything okay between you and Daniel?" That was it. No emoji, no explanation, just that question sitting there like a dropped plate. I asked her what she meant, my thumb hovering longer than it should have. The typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, then came back. "I just saw the seating layout Olivia posted. You're not listed." I assumed it was a mistake. The room felt suddenly too small. I sat down at the kitchen table, the wood cool through my shirt, and opened the image my sister forwarded. White background, elegant serif font, table numbers arranged in neat circles, names grouped together like they belonged. I scrolled slowly, carefully, as if moving too fast might make it real. Daniel was there, of course. Olivia, her parents, her friends, cousins I barely knew, even people I remembered meeting only once, years ago at some graduation dinner. But my name wasn't there. I searched again, zoomed in, out. I even turned my phone sideways as if that might reveal something. Hidden, nothing. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not shattered, not exploded, just quietly moved out of place, like a bone slipping from where it's supposed to rest. Before all of this, my life was simple in a way that took me years to appreciate. I'm a single mother. I raised Daniel alone after his father left when he was 6. Not dramatically, no slammed doors, just a slow fading, missed weekends, unanswered calls, then eventually nothing at all. I worked as an office manager for a mid-sized construction firm for over 25 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. I knew how to stretch a dollar, how to plan ahead, how to keep things running even when they threatened to fall apart. Our home was modest. 2 bedrooms, a small backyard with a lemon tree that never quite produced enough fruit to matter. On Sundays, I'd make soup or roast chicken, and Daniel would sit at the counter doing homework while I chopped vegetables. The radio was always on, low, familiar voices filling the quiet. We were never the kind of family that talked about feelings in big speeches. Love showed up in packed lunches, iron shirts, staying up late to help with last-minute school projects. When Daniel got into college, I cried alone in the bathroom so he wouldn't feel the weight of it. Olivia came into his life during his last year of school. He talked about her constantly at first, her laugh, her ambition, the way she just got him. When I finally met her, she was polite, careful, always perfectly put together. She called me Mrs. Hart, even after I told her to just use my first name. There was something distant about her, but I told myself that was just youth, or nerves, or my imagination. When they got engaged, Daniel called me first. His voice shook when he told me. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, my free hand pressed to my chest, saying how happy I was, how proud of him I felt. And I meant it. A few weeks later, the wedding conversations started. Venues, guest lists, flowers. Olivia's parents offered opinions. I offered support. And money. I didn't denounce it, I just started paying. The deposit for the venue, the caterer, the photographer, Olivia insisted was non-negotiable. Daniel protested at first, but I waved him off. I had savings. This was my son's wedding. This was what I'd been working toward all those years without really realizing it. Somewhere along the way, the tone shifted. Olivia stopped including me on group messages. Decisions were made without my input. When I asked questions, the answers were vague, delayed. The first time I felt truly unsettled was when I suggested inviting my aunt, Daniel's great-aunt, who helped watch him when he was little. Olivia smiled, tight and quick, and said, "We're trying to keep it intimate." I nodded. I always nodded, because that's what you do when you're afraid of losing the last piece of family you have. Now, staring at that seating chart, I realized intimacy had nothing to do with it. I set my phone down on the table and listened to the ticking clock on the wall. Each second felt louder than the last. I hadn't been uninvited. I had been erased. I didn't call Daniel that day. That surprised me about myself. I sat there for a long time, staring at the lemon tree outside the window, its leaves fluttering in the warm breeze, and I told myself I just needed to breathe first. I'd learned over the years that reacting too fast usually meant saying something I couldn't take back. Still, the silence hurt. That evening, Daniel texted me like everything was normal. "Hey, Mom, just checking in. You okay?" I stared at the message until the words blurred. The audacity of it, unintentional or not, pressed against my ribs. I typed, erased, typed again. "I'm fine. Busy today." A lie, small and neat. The next morning, I drove to the florist. I had offered to cover the flowers early on, and despite everything, I didn't want to be the one who caused a scene. The shop smelled like wet greenery and sweet decay, that strange mix only florists have. Olivia was already there, standing near a display of white roses, her arms crossed, her phone in her hand. She looked surprised to see me, not happy, just caught. "Oh," she said. "Hi." "Hi," I replied, forcing a smile. "Daniel said you'd be here." She nodded, eyes flicking back to her phone. The florist, a tired woman with dirt under her nails, asked us what we'd decided about centerpieces. Olivia launched into an explanation. Hydrangeas, eucalyptus, minimal greenery, speaking quickly, confidently, like someone used to being listened to. I waited. When there was a pause, I said quietly, "I saw the seating chart." The words hung between us. Olivia's shoulders stiffened, almost imperceptibly. "Oh," she said again. That, I repeated. I couldn't find my name. She exhaled through her nose, a controlled breath. "Yes, well, we've been meaning to talk to you about that." The florist pretended very hard to rearrange a vase in the corner. Olivia turned to face me fully now, her expression carefully neutral. "Daniel and I talked, and we think it's best if you don't attend the wedding." There it was, said calmly, as if she were explaining a scheduling conflict. "I don't understand," I said. My voice sounded steady to my own ears, which felt like a small miracle. "Why?" She tilted her head slightly. "We just feel it would be awkward." "For who?" "For everyone," she said quickly. "You have strong opinions, and sometimes it feels like you don't respect our boundaries." I thought of every time I'd swallowed a suggestion, every time I'd nodded instead of pushing back. "Can you give me an example?" She hesitated, just for a second. "The guest list, the finances, the way you involve yourself." "I paid for the wedding," I said. "Yes, and we're very grateful, but that doesn't mean you get a say in everything." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "I'm not asking for a say. I'm asking to be there. I'm his mother." She folded her arms tighter. "Daniel agrees with me." That was the part that finally broke through. "Have you talked to him about this?" I asked. She looked away. "He doesn't like conflict. He asked me to handle it." Of course he did. I left the florist without buying anything. The bell above the door chimed cheerfully as I stepped out into the parking lot, and the normalcy of it made my throat ache. That afternoon, I went through my files. I hadn't planned to. I was looking for a receipt, something to distract myself. But one folder led to another. Contracts, invoices, bank statements. The paper trail of the past year sat neatly labeled in my filing cabinet. Venue deposit, paid by me. Catering, paid by me. Dress alterations, paid by me. Down payment on the apartment Daniel and Olivia moved into 3 months earlier, listed as family loan, though no repayment plan had ever been discussed. I realized then that Olivia's confidence didn't come from independence. It came from assumption. That night, Daniel finally called. "Mom," he said, sounding tired, "Olivia said you were upset. Was she going to tell me herself?" There was a pause. I could hear traffic in the background. "She thought it would be easier if I found out from a seating chart?" I asked. He sighed. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Daniel?" Another pause. Longer this time. "She thinks you judge her," he said softly. "And I don't want tension at the wedding. I'm your mother. I carried you for 9 months. I raised you alone. And you're telling me I'm too much trouble to have in the room?" He didn't answer. That silence told me everything I needed to know. After we hung up, I sat in the dark living room, the only light coming from the street lamp outside. I didn't cry, not yet. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I made a decision. The decision didn't feel dramatic when it settled in me. It was quiet, heavy, like a door closing somewhere deep in the house. The next morning, I woke up early and made coffee I barely tasted. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, sunlight crawling slowly across the floor, and I began to organize things, not emotionally, but practically. That was always how I coped. Feelings could wait, facts could not. I reread every contract I had signed. I highlighted clauses. I noted cancellation timelines, ownership language, refund policies. It was tedious work, but grounding. The venue contract in particular caught my attention. My name was the only one on it. I had insisted on that at the time, thinking it was just easier. "I'll handle it," I'd said cheerfully back then. I called the venue manager just after 10. Her name was Carla. We'd spoken often enough that she recognized my voice. "Hi, Carla," I said. "I have a question about the reservation for June 18th. "Of course," she replied warmly. "Everything okay?" "Yes," I said. "I just need to confirm, who has authority to make changes to the booking?" There was a brief pause as she checked her system. "You do. You're the sole contract holder." "Thank you," I said. "That's all I needed to know." I didn't cancel anything, not yet. Instead, I called the bank. The apartment Daniel and Olivia lived in was modest but new, close to his work. Olivia had posted photos of it online, sunlight through sheer curtains, carefully arranged plants, a caption about new beginnings. What no one knew was that the down payment had come from me, quietly transferred from my savings, with the understanding, spoken, not written, that they'd refinance in a year or two. The loan officer confirmed what I already knew. The mortgage was in my name. Daniel was listed as an occupant, not an owner. I closed my eyes after I hung up, not in triumph, in grief. I remembered the day Daniel told me they'd found the place, how excited he'd been, how proud I felt to help. Love makes you generous. It also makes you blind. Over the next week, I became a ghost in their planning process. No calls, no updates. The group chats stayed silent. I saw snippets online instead. Dress fittings, cake tastings, smiling faces cropped carefully so I was never part of the frame. What hurt most wasn't the exclusion. It was how easily they adjusted to my absence. A few days later, Daniel came by the house. He looked thinner, tired. He stood in the doorway like a guest, hands in his pockets. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded and poured him tea. He used to like it sweet. I still added the honey out of habit. He didn't drink it. "Olivia's really stressed," he said. "This wedding is a lot." "I imagine it is," I replied. He shifted in his seat. "She feels like you don't support us." I looked at him, really looked. The crease between his eyebrows, the way his shoulders hunched like he was bracing for impact. "Do you feel that way?" He hesitated. "Sometimes it feels like you want things done your way." I smiled sadly. "Daniel, I've spent the last year doing things your way, quietly, without asking for recognition." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "She doesn't want drama," he said finally. "And having you there would make her anxious." "Then why not talk to me?" I asked. "Why not set boundaries together like adults?" He rubbed his face with both hands. "I didn't know how." I nodded. "That's honest. Too late, but honest." He looked up sharply. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said carefully, "that I'm stepping back from all of it." His eyes widened. "You can't just—" "I can," I said gently, "and I am." He stood abruptly. "Are you threatening to pull the money?" I considered that. The word threatening stung. "No," I said. "I'm acknowledging reality. You've made it clear I don't have a place in this wedding. I'm respecting that." "That's not fair," he said, his voice rising. "Neither is banning a mother from her son's wedding." He left shortly after that. The door closed with a soft click that echoed through the house. The days that followed were strangely peaceful. I walked more. I slept better. I stopped waiting for my phone to buzz. Then, a week before the wedding, Olivia finally called me. Her voice was tight, polite, controlled. "We need to talk," she said. "Yes," I replied, already knowing that the calm before the storm was over. Olivia came to the house late that afternoon. I noticed her shoes first. Polished, high heels, but careful, not flashy. She stepped into the kitchen slowly, like she was measuring each inch of space. The air smelled faintly of her perfume. Jasmine, maybe, or gardenia. Too sweet for a kitchen, but unmistakably her. She didn't sit. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Her phone buzzed in her purse, and she ignored it. That, I realized, was the first sign she actually cared about what I had to say. "I didn't think you'd let me in," she said. "I let you in," I replied. "You came." She hesitated. Then, "I wanted to explain why we excluded you." I nodded. "Go ahead." She spoke carefully, choosing words as if they were fragile objects. "I've felt overwhelmed. You've always been generous, and I appreciate that. But sometimes it felt like you were taking over, like you were reminding me this wedding wasn't ours but yours." Her voice trembled slightly. The mask slipped for a second. I saw a hint of fear that I would be angry, that I would yell, that I would ruin everything. "I see," I said softly. She let out a quiet breath. "Daniel agreed with me. He doesn't like confrontation, and I didn't want tension. I just thought maybe if we didn't invite you, things would be easier for everyone." I didn't move. I didn't even blink. "And now?" I asked. "Now, I think we made a mistake." I smiled faintly, not out of joy, but out of relief that she was finally speaking. "Do you know what the real mistake is?" She shook her head. "What? You tried to erase me, to pretend I didn't exist, but you forgot something important." Her brow furrowed. "What?" "I paid for this wedding." The words hung in the air, heavy as rain. I watched her face blanch. "You... what?" "Everything. Venue, catering, flowers, photographer, the apartment you moved into. The down payment came from me. Not your parents, not Daniel, me." The silence was unbearable. I could hear the faint hum of the fridge, the distant chirping of birds outside. She swallowed, slowly, then exhaled. "Daniel didn't know?" she asked, voice tight. "He didn't need to," I said. "I made it clear to him that my support wasn't a way to control his life. I just wanted to help." Her eyes filled with something I hadn't expected. Shame, fear, guilt. It was satisfying in a quiet, dignified way. Not revenge, just truth. "Mom," she said finally, I didn't realize. I thought you were independent. You weren't, and that's okay. But independence built on lies, that's dangerous." She nodded, tears brimming. "I'm sorry. I forgive you," I said. "But this changes things. Not because I want to punish you, but because respect has to exist. Boundaries have to exist. You can't erase people who love you." Her voice cracked. "What will happen now?" "I won't attend the wedding, not because I'm angry, but because I've already been excluded, and I won't let myself be invisible again." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Will Daniel be angry?" I shook my head. "No, he'll understand. Eventually. Maybe not immediately, but he'll understand that love doesn't mean you erase your family." There was a long pause. Then she finally said, I'll tell him." I nodded, feeling a calm I haven't felt in weeks. The injustice hadn't disappeared, but the power had shifted. The truth was out. The wedding could go on, but on terms that were real. The next day, Daniel called. "Mom," he began. His voice was softer than it had been in months. "I see. I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't want to confront it. I just wanted everyone to be happy." "And now?" I asked. "And now, I understand. I should have been honest from the start. You've done nothing but support me. You deserve respect." I smiled quietly. "Thank you, Daniel. That means more than you know." We sat in silence for a moment. No blame, no accusations, just understanding. "Mom, can we talk after the wedding about everything?" "Yes, we will." For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe, because I had chosen dignity over anger, truth over silence, love over resentment. I knew there would still be tension at the wedding, that Olivia would have to navigate her shame, that Daniel would feel torn, but the world didn't have to be perfect to be right. Sometimes the smallest acknowledgement, the whisper of truth, was enough to reset everything. As I hung up the phone, I walked to the window. The lemon tree swayed gently in the evening breeze. I could almost smell the faint sweetness of the blossoms that would never fully bloom, and I realized I had not lost. I had simply reclaimed my place in the story. The wedding day arrived like a slow sunrise, warm but heavy with tension. I stayed home that morning. The house was quiet, smelling faintly of coffee and old lemon wood. The kind of calm you notice only when the world outside is frenzied. I poured myself a cup and sat at the kitchen table, looking at the envelope in front of me. Inside was the invitation, hand-delivered by Olivia the day before. It wasn't just an invitation anymore. It was an acknowledgement. My place could not be erased, even if she had tried. I didn't rush. I dressed in something simple, elegant, nothing flashy, nothing to provoke, nothing to beg for attention. I wanted to be present, not dramatic. When I arrived at the venue, the air smelled of fresh grass, roses, and a faint tang of rain from earlier that morning. The staff greeted me politely, almost cautiously, as if they weren't sure I was meant to be there. I smiled, quietly. I wasn't there to fight. I was there to exist. And then I saw them. Daniel, nervous but smiling, checking his cufflinks. Olivia, radiant in her gown, chatting with a bridesmaid, laughter spilling like sunlight. They were happy. That fact hit me first, sharper than anything else. I took my seat near the back, unobtrusive. I didn't need to be front and center. I didn't need the spotlight, and for a moment I almost forgot the weeks of hurt, the sting of exclusion. The ceremony began. Soft music, quiet vows, the faint rustle of silk dresses and polished shoes on stone floors. And as Daniel and Olivia exchanged rings, something shifted inside me. I felt the old ache, the ache of being overlooked, undervalued, but it was tempered now with clarity. I had chosen my path. I had chosen dignity. I had chosen truth. After the ceremony, during the reception, Olivia came to me. She approached slowly, eyes down, hands clasped together. "Mom," she said softly, I wanted to thank you for everything. I realized how much I relied on you, even though I tried to ignore it." I smiled. "You're welcome," I said gently. "I didn't help for thanks. I helped because I love Daniel, and I want him to be happy." Her eyes brimmed with tears. "I'm sorry for excluding you. I was scared, stupidly scared. It's okay. Fear is human. What matters is that you own it." Daniel joined us then, resting a hand on my shoulder. "Mom," he said, voice thick, "I should have spoken up. I'm sorry. Thank you for being patient with us." I patted his hand, feeling the years of struggle, the late nights, the sacrifices, and finally the acknowledgement of them. "I'm proud of you, and nothing can take that away." We didn't dwell on past mistakes. We didn't make speeches or demand apologies. We simply existed together, 3 generations of love and mistakes, now reconciled. Later, when I stepped outside for a moment, I watched the guests laughing, the lights strung across the patio twinkling like stars caught in a net. I breathed in the night air, sweet with the scent of roses and lemon blossoms, and I realized something important. Life doesn't always honor your timing, your expectations, or your sacrifices, but it does offer opportunities to claim your dignity, even quietly, even indirectly. I thought about Olivia, how fragile she had been, how human, and I thought about Daniel, how easily he had been swayed, and how he had grown in just a week by facing the truth. And I thought about myself, standing in the cool night, holding nothing but a cup of coffee and a steady heartbeat, knowing I had done right. Sometimes love isn't about being seen. It's about letting go, speaking truth, and standing firm when others try to rewrite the story. As I walked back inside, I overheard Olivia whispering to Daniel, "We couldn't have done this without her." And I realized, sometimes the hardest victories are quiet, unseen. And sometimes being erased isn't the end, it's the beginning of being recognized in a way that matters. Later that night, after everyone had gone, I sat on the porch with a blanket over my knees, listening to the faint hum of cicadas and the soft clink of glasses in the distance. The lemon tree swayed gently in the breeze. The air smelled like rain and possibility. I thought about everything that had happened, the exclusion, the humiliation, the quiet heartbreak, and I asked myself a question I knew I would carry with me. Would you have walked away, or would you have stayed silent and let them erase you? I hope my story helps someone out there recognize that love doesn't have to be loud to be powerful,
that sometimes standing quietly in truth is more courageous than yelling in anger. And if you've ever been hurt by those you love, remember this: your voice matters, your presence matters, and your dignity is yours to protect, no matter what. Would you have done what I did? Tell me in the comments.